Cybersecurity or AI security is rarely about fear. It's mostly about understanding exposure and risk and then thinking of ways to mitigate it. What you did was that you told your daughter, let's have a secret safe word. It isn't about the perfect response or answer. It is mainly about first understanding there is a risk, and secondly, sort of pausing and taking a moment. And that's what thwarts a lot of scams, is when you think for a second, because they thrive on that urgency. Welcome back to the AI Ready Doctor podcast. My name is Dr. Bencheqroun, or Dr. B, and I'm your host. And with me today is a special guest. That is my brother. So if you see some quips here and there that are brotherly, you'll understand. My brother, his name is Annoar. He retired from the army and he moved into cybersecurity. He also completed an MBA while working full-time. Started writing books and even created music albums. Annoar developed educational material and somehow still finds time to send me very long voice notes. So naturally, I invited him on the podcast to explain productivity. Annoar, welcome back. Welcome to the AI Ready Doctor podcast.
Glad to be here. Lower your expectations.
But they're as low as can be. Now, not true. I'm very proud of you. You've spent years serving in the US Army. And now your biggest deployment, maybe what, 12 AI agents working at the same time? Is that the average right now?
Typically, they run operations, they follow some instructions.
They do follow instructions. Somebody does. You just impressed me. And because this season is about moving from awareness to action, I want usable knowledge. I want listeners and viewers to take away something that they could use right away. We're not going to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes asking whether AI is coming. It already is here. We're not going to just talk about don't use AI. My goodness, it's going to wipe out humanity. What I want to talk about is what's new in AI. So we have today 3 sections. And the first one is what's new in AI. The second one is AI confessions. And the third one is AI in action. And so naturally, I'm going to turn to you. You changed career direction. You reconnected with parts of yourself. You started writing. My goodness, you sent me your latest album. I spent the whole night and this morning listening to it. You're making music, lyrics and vocals and even melodies, and put together a full album. You built things and you're using AI not an escape from life, but as leverage to create a new one. So I am proud of you, and I will try not to, make too much of it, but it is true. So tell us a little bit about your origin story. What is it that brought you to use AI, and how are you right now using it in your new goals of life?
So, my first real use for AI was not survival. It was about ambition, especially in the MBA program, full-time, coming out of the military, transitioning to a civilian career, working in this career, and also trying to upskill myself. And the natural progression for myself was to finish or complete an MBA that I had put on hold twice because of deployments. So managing all of that stuff allowed me to use, for ChatGPT was the first one that I started using, allowed me to manage the load, I digest the concepts, break down the dense readings we get, explain a framework, for a class or something like that. Turn a week of material into something I could understand before the exam. And so once I saw how it worked on my studies, I just moved it into my work. So it was a natural progression to move it into my work and start building stuff with it for my actual work.
That's amazing. I watched you rebuild after so many difficult chapters. I don't mind saying, and our viewers know, and on social media, that we lost our father recently. And I've watched you rebuild after that difficult chapter. What, barely, not even 2 months now.
Yeah.
You found love again. You strengthened your relationship with your daughter. You changed professionally. You created after years of what you wanted to create. So, what changed inside you before AI became useful? Because many people tell me, I don't know how to start. And my usual answer is start with you. So, how did you start with you before you added AI to the mix?
So one of the catalysts was one of my MBA professors, Dr. Ayman. He was teaching entrepreneurship and creativity. And one of the concepts he was harping on was whether we are born creative or you become creative or how to sustain all of that stuff. And you do some exercises in there, like try to write with your left hand or something else like this, discover some other stuff you did not think you had in you. And yes, I wrote 3 pages of something with my left hand. It took me about 5 hours to complete, but it made me understand, okay, certain limiters that we have now I can do myself if I put in a little bit of work to learn it. Yes, trying to, for example, create a music album. I'm not musically trained. I tried piano years ago. I never absorbed it. My mind is not wired that way. But with these tools now, I could make music. Okay. And more than that, I understand it and I could hear what works and what does not. And it's not about just give it a prompt to an AI, say, hey, write me a song. No, I pour myself in it. Okay. And I apply that to other stuff as well. Transition from the military. Every day I'm rediscovering myself into how I could use AI, whether it's to create a resume or to create a tool or build an application or something like that. As I mentioned, it's about ambition. Okay. I don't let myself think I cannot do it. Within the confines of what AI provides, now it gives this openness, this freedom to what we can create. Ideas are the one differentiator at times between when one person comes up with and the other person can execute. Okay.
So I love this. What you're saying is AI is the tool. Now, it may look shiny. It may give us all this stuff that looks super, super advanced. But what differentiates us is our creativity, and that is personal.
And the taste or the
Uh,
knowledge, as well.
did you end up finding it?
So a lot of people are using AI, for example, to analyze a spreadsheet or create a PowerPoint or whatever. Okay. Yes, the tool can create a nice looking PowerPoint deck, but if you have to have the knowledge of your profession, like I do, to know what is right or wrong or steer this research into space, or even with the taste. For example, with my music, as I said again, I'm not musically trained. A lot of producers behind big name bands are not musically trained, but they produce those bands and they have great success because they have an ear. They know what good music is and what's not. So I create multiple editions of the same song and I edit certain things, and AI helped me both in creation and or in speed of execution. And then I I drive it and it helps me complete the step where I'm deficient on, which is playing a piano or have a nice song, a singing voice. Or if I have a background vocal of a female background vocal, it creates that. So all of this stuff here is shaped around my desire, my thoughts, my lyrics, or how I tweak with it, how it writes the lyrics or the music. You understand me?
Yes, I do. And I can already tell when I heard the album yesterday, he did find taste in the end. You were searching for it for quite some time. But I think what is important to know is the tools arrived at the right time. You still had to do the rebuilding. You did not have discipline from AI. You had discipline yourself. You did not ask AI to do the reinvention for you. It sounds glamorous, but it was hard work, and the hard work was yours. So the next chapter is we want to talk about what's new in AI. Let me ask you, since you are working in this, what's new in AI that you've heard yesterday and today that you think our viewers need to know?
So there's always all these models coming out. There's always these companies trying to face each other and compete. Okay. Multiple tools. What you need to know is not necessarily chasing the latest trend. Okay. For example, I've been using Claude from Anthropic for the past year and a half. I was using ChatGPT for a long time, but then I now transitioned to Claude for a while in order to create some stuff according to my desires. And then now, for example, they just came out with GPT 5.6. A couple of weeks ago, Claude came out with Fable. You know, if you follow feeds on YouTube or X or whatever, everybody will come and say, this just killed that. This just burned that. This is the end of this. For me, my thinking right now is I don't follow the technology. I follow the use case. If I need to do something with Claude, I do with Claude. If I do something with ChatGPT, like for example, for a while I was generating images with Gemini. But I hated how they baked that watermark, the diamond at the lower right-hand corner. Okay. Now I use ChatGPT, the images model. It's much better and it's cleaner and I can edit it. Music, same thing. I was using a different model. I landed on Suno. Much better. It has a different model now that is newer. The music is sharper. That is fine. Before I was using, for example, Gamma for PowerPoint decks. Now Claude does some stuff like that. You understand me? You follow the use case for something, not the technology, which is the best, which is the latest and all of that.
So how would one know? I'm someone who is in my 50s and I just hear this stuff about AI and I want to get on it. But I just don't know. And I keep hearing the words you spit out, which sounds very smart, but also dizzying. Where do I start? And that's the question is, does one know?
With a specific tool, and then you can branch out as you become more confident, more comfortable. Right now, for example, I would, maybe advise somebody, even my students, I advise start with one tool, a regular chatbot, like your ChatGPT. You see stuff, you implement in their like instructions and start talking to it. And then that also will tell you about other tools. If I need to do something, I need to create this, I need to do that, have a conversation with it that leads to what is the best, fastest way to accomplish X task. Some people might like Claude. Okay, go for Claude. Okay, Kimi or any others. So one tool that is a doorway for the rest.
You are the perfect person to ask this, but where does cyber security meet generative AI? Let me explain. last episode, we spoke about one of my colleagues and a news that was in San Diego about a man who received a scam call, but he didn't know it was. And the voice of his daughter was on the phone requesting money for bail for an accident where she hurt a pregnant woman. And so some scammer reproduced the voice of his daughter. This can be for any biometric data. So could AI lower the barrier for less sophisticated attackers? And are we more at risk now?
That is proven now. Unfortunately, that is already there, being happening. As you understood it, yeah, people doing stuff to scam people or to generate attacks, or even in the AI agentic workspace now, you have threat actors who are using these AI agents to probe and do reconnaissance on networks and try to attack and all of that stuff. The way to do it now is to raise awareness for yourself as well, for your family, and so on. I'll explain. Like this case that you just talked about, the deep fakes, using voice tools to clone. Companies are out there right now, like 11 Labs and whatnot, that allow you to clone voices. There's free tools on GitHub and other places where you can find these and generate yourself. You don't have to have the sophistication of a hacker somewhere in a dark room, to have the knowledge. You can craft a scam of email to send to somebody. I was talking to my daughter the other day about it. I say, hey, we'll have let's have a safe word. Me and you don't tell that to anybody. If something ever happens where I might get a call about you doing this or that, or something happened to you or whatever, me and you have this little secret between us, you and daddy. And if there's a conversation later, you include that or integrate it in the conversation to prove to me you are who you are, not some fake voice generated because somebody got 3 seconds of your voice and cloned it.
I love
Okay.
that. That is exactly the advice we gave. And what you said isn't about AI or not AI. Cybersecurity or AI security is rarely about fear. It's mostly about understanding exposure and risk, and then thinking of ways to mitigate it. What you did was that you told your daughter, let's have a secret safe word. So my colleague did the same, and she tested her daughter, teenager as well. And her daughter said, oh, mom, it was something to do with butterflies or something. I don't know. Like, well, that's great. But we came back and said, it isn't about the perfect response or answer. It is mainly about first understanding there is a risk. And secondly, sort of pausing and taking a moment. And that's what thwarts a lot of scams, is when you think for a second, because they thrive on that urgency. So would you tell us, when you log in into your computers, do you have like a routine or things or tips that you do as a cybersecurity specialist that the rest of us could learn? I don't know, maybe your passwords, they would still be the same easy word to remember, but instead of using an O, you use a character, or instead of using an S, you use the $sign. Things like this. What are some of the tips that you do that we could learn from you?
So I'll disappoint you. I don't use a whole lot of those characters, although what I use is what we call passphrases or something like that. Rather than a regular dictionary word, I'll combine 2 words together, something that I remember, that's not gonna make sense to somebody if they were trying to, brute force my account or anything like that. You understand? And I combine it with like numbers and lowercase, uppercase letters and special characters, because that statistically makes it much harder in terms of centuries to actually brute force a that kind of password. Okay. Increase the complexity. Add to it, for example, have some awareness of yourself, meaning you get an email before the general advice was like, hey, you would understand if it's a phishing email because it's got bad English and whatever. But now AI can help anyone who does not even speak English craft a very nice, coherent email in English. But now you have to have the knowledge to say, does it make sense to me or not? Do I need to click on this email, the link in the email to copy it? Because now the awareness is also start to come in from corporations. You get an email from your bank and it must say, here's the operation. And at the end, at the bottom, it says, our agents will never ask you for your password. But sometimes you get an email that says, hey, we noticed some unusual activity on your account. Click this link to change your email. So why would you click it? You already should know or have been already informed by your bank. We will never ask for your password. So if somebody's trying to bypass our lower defenses. You understand me?
I do. I
Okay.
love this. So if I may, what you suggested is instead of using a word that you know all the time that is easy to remember, use two or three and contract them into one, and then add a special character or two and a lowercase and uppercase, and that makes it, you can remember it still, but it does increase the complexity. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yes.
And then the second
Exactly.
one that you shared with us is when you get a link in an email for whatever it is, either a bank or some service that you use, don't go for the easy link that was put there for your quote convenience. Exit the email and go to your bank account or go to that service that you are asked to check and check it through a real link, not one from your email. That's very,
Absolutely.
very useful. And I appreciate that.
This
I want to
awareness
talk
can be, yeah. One thing to just add to it, this awareness, you could bring it into other facets of your life because, of course, it's not just these two things. For example, AI is being used for disinformation. Even that deep fake you're talking about, the voice and everything like that, everything is being used by others to manipulate, to control certain trends of information. And you see that more apparent in social media, in the WhatsApp messages that get pushed out between people. Okay. So rather than trust it, like I think Reagan was saying that trust but verify. Okay.
I
So
like that too, because I actually trained myself now when I see something on the media that would have the power to make me click or gasp in awe or horror, then what I do is I exit that medium and I go and Google that story and find out if that story is true. And if it is true, there'll be links about it everywhere. If it is not
absolutely.
true,
Yeah.
I'll have a hard time to find it. So phenomenal, phenomenal tips. I sincerely appreciate it. I do wish to ask to speak about something very impressive to me, and I have to say, I'm proud to be biased in it. I think people sometimes misunderstand veterans. They admire the uniform, they admire the sacrifice, the discipline, and then the person retires, and suddenly society expects them to become a civilian by Tuesday. You had to translate your skills, your identity, your experience into a different world. And how did you do it? And clearly, it's an AI podcast, so it'd be good to see how AI helped you that transition. But how did you translate your military skills into a civilian language?
So veterans do not lose their skills when they leave the military. They might lose the language to explain them. Okay. And I have experienced it on both sides of the fence, pre-AI, well, predominant use of AI, and now in this current framework. So coming out of the military back in late 2021, I was stationed overseas in South Korea. Middle of COVID, unable to fly back to the US to meet with potential employers, attend job fairs, research where I'll go, and so on and so forth. But I just had one thing in mind is coming back to Texas to be close to my daughter, because I was overseas and deployment and all of that stuff. I had lost some time with her, as every military veteran or spouse understands and experiences. And so I was trying to recover some of that stuff and also make my way back into the civilian workforce. Okay. Yes, there are a lot of nonprofits and government programs that help veterans transition and do all of that stuff. But now with AI in 2026, there's great opportunities for everyone, whether you're brand new or already steeped in it from the past 2 or 3 years, to have a runway for your transition or post-transition. Every single time, every single day, there's always a transition for us, because you come out you are in the service for 4 years or 8 years or 20 years or 35 years. Doesn't matter. You have an identity, okay? In uniform, with the mission, with the soldiers, with everybody, with the leadership, the responsibility and everything like that. Now you have to shed it and put on another mantle of different work, different communication styles with civilians who have not been in the military. They would not understand how you speak. Sometimes I used to talk and might do the knife hand, Here, for some of them, one person told me it was a threatening gesture to her. I didn't get mad. I just absorbed it and moved on with it. Same thing with the resume, with the skills. Whether you use your previous skills and you adapt them to the civilian life, whether, some people work in logistics. Logistics is the same thing in the military and in civilian life. You still move stuff around for a company. But how you do it, how you connect with people, how you realize stuff is what changes. And with AI, now you can change it a little bit faster. Again, AI is a tool. It's not magic. It's not a magic wand that it's going to find you a job. It's going to get the interview for you. There are services out there to help create your resume for you, help you manage it and change it into civilian words and civilian jargon. But now you have to incorporate it in yourself. You can have a chat with your ChatGPT or Claude or whatever other service out there that is created by another veteran that could translate that resume into your own words, into your own experience and things like that. And then it helps you also with your job interview. Research the company, research the interviewer. Before that, before it could have taken you maybe 5, 6, 10 hours looking at their reports, at the websites, at all of that stuff. Now it's maybe a 20-minute, 30-minute session of dedicated research. You understand? So hopefully I made sense with this, trying to give something actionable to somebody listening here. Always thinking of AI now as a tool. Okay, you direct it in, and whatever it spits back at you, you can reframe it, you can incorporate it in my life, in my decision making. It doesn't make decisions for me. Okay, it helps me make better decisions by shortening the time for research, by improving my decisions according to various factors.
You had told me before one time that you can be grateful for your past, not being trapped inside it. That a new career does not erase the old one, it redeploys the lessons. And I want to mention when you told me this. I had called you and you told me you had just finished teaching. When you first came out of the army, the first year or two, and even after, you were giving a lot of your time to veterans in transition. The educator in our father found itself in you, and you were educating others what you had just learned yourself. And for context, you are my bigger brother. You're older than me, and we saw each other through the years. I saw you go through difficult years. I also saw you come out of them with now so much more softness, but also more creativity. And might I add, a little bit more better taste in music. I think you and I had different tastes in music and multiple times stopped each other's music playing when we were together in the same room. But I think that what I heard you say as tools that you've used are varied. You said ChatGPT. You also said Claude. You also said Gemini. You used Suno for AI music, which I must say I started to use as well, not nearly as good as you. And it is incredible to see and to hear you say, AI did not reinvent me. What it did is I had ideas for years. AI reduced the distance between intention and creation. What does it mean for you to give back to your brethren that are also transitioning from veteran life to civilian life? What does it bring you that you give your time to it?
For us, it's about paying it forward because somebody has been there, paved the way, and he helps the person behind them pull it back. Okay? You don't leave nobody, no falling behind. And it can happen through various means, through mentorship, through showing the way, through supporting, through via education, or whatever other means I'm capable of. Like just this past week, for example, somebody reached out who knows my path. We were together overseas and in the same company here in the US, and we're not working in the same company. And he's like, "Hey, I have a colleague. You might not know him, but he just passed and earned his CISSP certification, and he needs endorsement." And I was like, "Congratulations." He's like, "I'm reaching out because you're already CISSP certified, which is a good high level certification in cybersecurity. Would you mind endorsing him?" I'm like, "I don't mind to. I just need to talk to him and verify his credentials and everything like that." But I'm glad to provide that support to somebody who needs it, because I've had somebody back then endorse me for my own CSSP, who knew me, who knew my work, and so on and so forth. The education I'm teaching, and I teach about cybersecurity, and sometimes, yes, we get course material from the vendor, from the company. It can be dry at times. It could be a little outdated
at times.
I gotta respect those authors as well. Okay. But you understand where I come from. So sometimes I might take that PowerPoint and dress it up for church, as they say. Okay. Get more recent concepts from it. If we're talking about a cybersecurity attack, if it's talking about something that happened in 2014, am I going to say, okay, yeah, it also happened in 2024 or 2025 or something like that? Like what AI did or something like that, the defects we're talking about. Giving back to the community is also about sharing how to do your resume, or, earn this certification before this certification, or, hey, this is what you should search for in a state when you're trying to do your transition, and help through that. I'm not going to call it identity loss. Some people say identity loss, removing the uniform, retiring work, leaving the military base for the last time. changing your ID card from active duty to retired or veteran. That's all part of it. Is for me, is changing it now. Now, so of course, sometimes it's frustrating, and you have to adjust to it in certain ways.
Readjust. Yeah, you have to readjust. But let's be honest. Do you ever generate more than you can realistically read?
Oh yeah.
So do we
Like,
confuse motion with progress? Or how do you deal with the sheer amount of almost like a small national archive that you just created while having dinner with your family using your agents?
so let's split it up a little bit of what we're generating. Depends on what somebody is generating. Like right now, for example, past 6 months, for example, I've been building about 3 or 4 applications as for my business. Okay. If I'm going to see, AI has progressed so much in the past year and a half that for the most part, you could trust to a great extent what it produces, the output it produces, without having to go line by line, reading the code to verify everything is good. Okay. So it could generate 50,000 lines of code. And I could just say, okay, all right. Yes, there's still code review and other things I put in place and all of that stuff to make sure there's no vulnerabilities baked into code and everything like that. But I'm not going to read that. Okay. So sometimes it might be working on my Claude code here, my terminal, and I'm having dinner with my family. And then at the end, I come back and say, hey, give me a sit rep. Okay. Situation report. Okay. A summary. And it says, okay, here's what we did, da, 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 da. Or here's the vulnerabilities that I discovered and it's already taken care of. I already figured it out and fixed it and blocked and all of that stuff. So I don't have to dedicate hours of my time sitting down, banging at the keyboard and so on, which affords me a little bit of time to be with my family or go out, run errands, buy groceries, whatever, or even go and rest. I'm a veteran. All of us are veterans with 20 plus years of hard physical work. My back is shot. Certain things are bad. So sometimes I need to go lay down a little bit to and you're a doctor, I'm not going to explain everything, but to let things settle. I could be in my bed on my phone with Claude Code remotely, continuing on. Okay. So these are the things that it afforded me to have. So that's on the code side, for example. With the music, it's the same thing. All right. I generate stuff, but I let it go when I need to be with my family. All right. Sometimes if my mind is really working and it's tied to that project or to that task, I can't let it go sometimes. I ask my wife or something like that, hey, please, like sometimes she might, after dinner, it might be like, hey, do you want to watch a movie? But I have something that my mind is not letting go. So I might be on my keyboard until 2 o'clock in the morning, one time until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I have to thank my wife and my daughter, like they will watch a movie together and leave me be. They understand that. So that benevolence is good. Okay.
I like that you use it the right way, that you sometimes stop when you need to stop, but you're being honest when you can't. And you are actually sharing with them that they too are participating in your success by being benevolent. And I also heard you occasionally refer to the AI as he. And we talked about that.
Yes.
So,
yes.
But should we be concerned?
For me, I come at it from a conscious background. Sometimes I give it a name just for convenience. Well, my ChatGPT, I don't have a name for it. It's just, hey, do this. The one I gave it a name and it's on purpose. And it's my Hermes agent on Telegram, for anybody back there, of course, towards the beginning of this year, there was this whole wave of talking about, personal agents and OpenClaw and Hermes and everything like that, and everybody started installing OpenClaw on their telephone and buying Mac Minis like they're going out of
And
style.
for context, what we mean is literally an AI that could be almost like an employee or an assistant. You can send a message through either a messaging system such as WhatsApp or Telegram, and they would channel it to an AI. And that AI has access to your email, to your hard drive, and has access to tools like Word and Excel and PowerPoint. So all you have to say is, I need the budget for tomorrow. And by the way, remind me to buy milk. Send that message through a messaging system, and that will be done for you by an AI acting like an assistant. And they had various names, such as Open Claw, like the claw of a lobster, or it can have the name of Hermes, like an Hermes belt or fashion. So these are names that people are not used to, and that's the context in which you're bringing this.
Yes. And that one, I gave it a name because its task was as my chief of staff for my business, my life, and whatnot. His name is Nolan Calloway. It's got its own email address. It's got its own GitHub address for my code and things like that. Later on, if you know, I might have, after this episode, I might have to get its own LinkedIn before somebody takes it. Okay.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But what's impressed me also is I've always known you as the military guy, but now you're not just the AI guy. My goodness, you are the music man. I have to say to you, I want to turn something into a positive. After our father, Baba, died, you created music about grief. And that stayed very human to me. You were not asking AI to grieve for you. You were using it to help you turn grief into something you could hold. And your name, I think, is Iron Pulse on Spotify. You had an album there, and you called it The Slow Inheritance. And it was, my goodness, it was a tear shedder. So why music? Tell us a little bit about that.
I chose music because it's a universal language. It reaches people the way a story does, sometimes further. And it was already mine, before this experience. I had already made some other albums in my own taste. So music was already how I processed things. So when our father died, I did not go looking for a new outlet. Okay. I reached for the one that I already had. And I wanted to put my grief and my thoughts about him, my way of missing him, into something real. And I wanted to hand it to other people that are carrying the same loss. Okay.
I felt it. I felt it, and I shared the person we're grieving. I shared some of the references you made. And you also told me that you shared it with your barber. And your barber also felt that in his bones, and he had an emotional reaction to you. Is that correct?
Yes. He told me that he had lost his wife recently in the past year. And we were just talking about my dad. And he's like, hey, let me listen to some of the songs. And I played it on his little Bluetooth speaker they had in the shop. And poor guy broke down. A 67-year-old, person. And I was like, hey, sit down, please. It's not that I was worried about my hair. It's about him.
Well,
All right. And then, yeah. So again, that's what let me exteriorize my grief, because before that, when we lost our grandparents back in years back, that grief stayed with me, inside my head, my heart, and nowhere else. And this time was different. I tried to put it out a little bit outside of me on the page, in the sound. So the words, the topic of every song, all the decisions, no tool made it for me. I chose the scope, and I kept this album an adult loss, losing a parent, a spouse, or anything like that. And with AI, it helped me put it on paper, bring it to life as a
So it
tool.
helps you process the thought. It didn't live the experience for you.
No.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I sincerely appreciated this conversation, the rawness of it, the honesty of it, the brotherness of it. And I guess all I can say is I'm proud of you. You've taught me a lot, even in the last 40 minutes. And I hope that others have also seen and learned from you. But just to give something to take away today, say I just sat down and joined Suno to create music. So I put in, for example, the username and password, and here I am. What do I start with? How do I talk to an AI? What kind of prompts do you use in order for you to come up with a song? What's your process?
Again, remember earlier when we talked about creativity?
Yeah.
The process lives inside you. You talk to anybody on the street right now and say, hey, what do you want to do or create or something? Somebody will already have an idea. And I knew, you would ask about it. So if you allow me to share my screen for a quick second.
Please. Yes.
All right. Here. Hopefully it's going to work for me.
While you're doing that, what I actually did say was I wanted to see if I can come up with something close. So the way I used your music was give me a melody that's given Metallica, Iron Maiden, Evanescence, and Daughtry with some country undertones.
This is my Claude app, right? You see all these songs. I'm going to spare you the mile-long conversation thread that I've had with it and all of that stuff. I have it create this little, what's called artifact. You could just tell them, generate this. And this is the output in here after that. This is the final copy. Before it's all these lyrics that we go back and forth and shape it up. Who sings what? The male, the female. So this one here was just a male. I guess this other song here would be duo, male and female, and so on and so forth. Okay. We go back and forth in shaping the song and how I want it to be. All right. And after
what
that,
I liked about it, you actually had some really poignant stuff. This one is Morning Without Permission. The previous one was The Hour Before the Call. AI can make this stuff. It had to be you. It had to be your lived experience. And it had to be you refining until you find the precise one that speaks to what you feel. Is it not?
yes. And it's because it's my own experience that shaped this album. Again, when we talk about album or music or anything, you can extrapolate that to other things that you do with AI. Okay. And then I come here. This is Suno. So you said, hey, let's sign up on Suno because I just want to create some music. Well, just like with people on Instagram that take a picture and post it, some of those influencers, they would have taken 200 pictures before decided on the one specific one. So here I create multiple versions and tweak each one of them until I'm satisfied with the perfect tone, the perfect pitch, the perfect distribution between the male and female, because sometimes, again, Suno is an AI model on its own, so it will shape the music, the instruments. Okay, I have a prompt for each song: hard rock, heavy guitar, slow brooding weight, the BPM, the chorus will be male, full hard rock weight,
How
blah blah.
long did it take you to learn all of this?
It's about, it's not going to take too long. The length is about how you improve on your own. Just like if you were to do a website, your first website will be bad. The 10th website you create will be better. My first album was okay. Yes, this is my 20th album that I created for myself, and it's much better. So you improve it as you go along, or you can take the easy way out. Like, for example, sometimes with this, again, I use my Claude or ChatGPT and say, "All right, we're about to create an album. Go and research about the latest Suno prompts and how Suno does and what other people are using it for, and how to improve and have Suno create the voices with our prompts better, because it has its own model. It could shape. When you want a male to sing, it could be a female voice. So I'm trying to have it improve on that. You understand me? I use the AI as a tool to help me with my work, and the creative input will be coming from me. So this is all the songs that I put in a playlist for the final versions of the album that I created about the grief. You understand me?
I
If
do.
if I was to go into my studio, I have multiple, just to show, for example, behind the scenes. And of course, my internet is being slow. Thank you, AT&T. And yeah,
Beautiful.
it's
Thank you.
thousands of songs that
This
I have in
is
there.
this is usable knowledge. This is what I wanted our viewers and listeners to see, that it's not magic. It is you. And it is just like everything else. You have to take it, and like a muscle, you have to work it. So if you were to have a last word for our viewers today, and do not make it a long voice note, what would that be?
AI is here. Let's not be afraid of it. Start slow. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. Hopefully, it's short enough.
I appreciate that you made it short enough. So if you are listening while driving, walking, or perhaps pretending to work, some of the things that we talked about today is not just not to be afraid of AI, but to actually own it, that it doesn't replace you, that it just shortens the distance between what you imagine and what you accomplish. And perhaps you might have a little bit of risk appetite that's now whetted enough to try yourself at Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT for recipes, for music, for imaging, for anything that you need to do. And we also perhaps have taught you through my big brother that presence is also a productivity choice. Choosing to be present for your family, choosing to be present for your body to rest. Children should also learn with AI, but also without AI, so that they can actually not miss out on life, but also not miss out on a future that is developing, that is not our present or our past. So with that, I wanted to say this directly. I'm proud of how you turned your life around, not because everything in it is perfect, not because you checked enough boxes, not because you chose life again or something else again, because you built something after disappointment, because you found love after love and life after life, because you opened your heart again, because you allowed yourself to create, because you took your family with you and not just put them aside like some people do to accomplish. I'm glad that I got my brother back in a different way. And Well, starting again is not proof of a first chapter failed. It is proof of strength later in life through flexibility, not through armor. I think you shared that one with me from a book you read. Um, One tradition that we have is before we end the episode, we always have a rapid fire. So, one sentence, no speeches. Ready?
Okay.
All right. ChatGPT or Claude?
Claude to build and write.
Typing
ChatGPT,
or
yeah.
voice?
Voice.
One AI tool you use every week?
Claude Code.
One AI tool that you abandoned?
Gemini.
An AI that you overrated?
Gamma.
An AI that you underrated?
One that reads the long documents and finds the one line that matters. Claude.
What is the best use of AI for veterans?
Translating military experience into civilian language.
One thing that people should never upload.
Personal data.
Okay. And who's our dad's favorite? Ha, you don't need to answer that. You don't need to answer that. But one word.
Thanks for sneaking that in.
One word or one sentence for our late father.
He was a guide, a role model. Taught me how to be, what to be, how to behave.
Thank you for that. And that is true. One word for your next chapter.
Author.
Okay. The last one that I will ask. What will you create next?
Subscribe to this thread to find out.
Cute. Okay. I like it. Smart guy. You'll be invited again. Anwar, I invited you because you understand cybersecurity. I invited you because you understand AI. And mostly because I invited you because I watched you rebuild. I said it many times. You served, you led, you transitioned into civilian life, you continued learning, you became a student again, then you became a teacher, then you became a creator, then you became a husband again. And through a difficult year for our family, you found a way to turn grief into music. That deserves to be seen. I am sincerely, sincerely proud of you. And even though your prompts are sometimes unnecessarily long, thank you for joining me today. And to everyone watching or listening, you may not need an entirely new life, but you may need to finish an unfinished idea. One useful tool and enough courage to begin. And I hope you found it today in my brother. So use the tool, but keep your judgment. Keep you, protect your data, and call your brother, but also call mine. Thank you for listening. See you next time.